Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F123 Driver Career Mode here on the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. Today we are coming at you with the Brazilian Grand Prix, a sprint weekend, the final sprint weekend of the season. Exciting times ahead with that, of course, going into these final few races, potentially with AlphaTauri now, as we are not guaranteed to be coming back, as we actually have a retirement announcement. Nico Hülkenberg is going to be hanging up the helmet at the end of the season, so the Haas driver going to be calling it quits. He comes back for one season and says, you know what, this ain't it for me anymore. I am headed out now. As you can see, we're going to be actually taking a big grid penalty again here this weekend in Brazil. So I decided basically to swap out the whole engine, not the whole engine, but the vast majority of the engine. So we will be starting from the back of the grid there for the Grand Prix. For the sprint race, obviously, it's a different situation there. We can actually do that from our qualifying position. So we roll in to the Interlagos area now, as I'm very, very excited to get rolling around this racetrack, because Interlagos is one of my top 5, I would say, favorite circuits in the world. And obviously, you guys know Singapore is my number one, just right off the top of my head. Singapore, definitely Interlagos, and then I would say Martinsville Speedway would probably be 3 of the top 5 for sure. Quite a bit different from one another, obviously, Singapore being a street course, this being just a normal racetrack, and then Martinsville being a very short oval, of course, which is all about rhythm and whatnot, and I just love that racetrack so much now. Definitely my favorite on the oval side, but nonetheless, here we are, getting some laps under our belt in practice now on Friday afternoon here. Fresh off of now the news, Daniel Ricciardo's returning to Formula 1, so excited to see him potentially back in this car in Season 2 at some point. I don't know how that's going to quite work, but we'll have to wait and see. Our teammate Yuki Tsunoda there, P17 in free practice 1. Now we roll into qualifying. Going to roll through qualifying pretty quickly because we already know we'll be starting at the back for the Grand Prix, so it's not going to matter too much, other than, of course, our sprint starting position. But there is some developments that are a bit important here in Q1, so pay attention now as we get our first lap underway. And my first lap was okay. We crossed the stripe. We go P11, P12 for myself and Tsunoda, so pretty happy with that. However, I would make a second lap here right at the end of the session and see if we could find some improvement. Unfortunately, I ran out of battery, but I found enough time throughout the lap to barely cross the stripe with some better time there on the board. P12, P13 for us at AlphaTauri. Stroll out in Q1 again, and I think that could be the final straw for his father of Lawrence Stroll, who would make a visit to my car.
The ride is yours. Let's get in touch.
Well, you hear that immediately. Lawrence Stroll literally came over to the car, into the paddock there, and said, the ride is yours, so we'll be in touch. It wasn't long until Ted Kravitz actually had gotten a bit of a visual of what happened there.
Guys, just a development here. I just saw Lawrence Stroll walk into Owen's pits and have a very quick word with him.
Myself to Aston Martin, the kind of conversations, the rumors, they continue to heat up. Focus, though, on the actual laps here in Q2. We were P10, P12 for myself and Tsunoda, but I was dropping down the order and unfortunately just didn't have enough battery on my second lap, so I would have to bail out and we would miss Q3. Quite simple enough. Looks like P11 is where we will start for the sprint, and sure enough, P11, P14, only separated by just over a tenth. Myself and Yuki are Magnussen there, Albon, of course, in between the two of us, Bottas at the back. So, unfortunate, no Q3, but let's head to see the grid for the sprint.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Hamilton, Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Gasly, Norris, Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Golden Boy, Magnussen, Albon, Tsunoda, Bottas, Stroll, Joe, Oscar Piastri, Hülkenberg and Logan Sargent. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
Well, the weather is not pretty. It is raining quite a bit. It is actually right now in that very kind of early transition between the wet to intermediate kind of weather. However, we're just jumping straight into the formation lap. We are all here starting on the intermediate tire. Charles Leclerc, Russell, Hamilton, Verstappen, Sainz, your top 5. Ferrari has been on it lately, of course, with Sainz with the win at Circuit of the Americas. Charles Leclerc in Mexico, where it was kind of looking like Sainz was going to be able to pick up the victory. Of course, that's not what ended up happening after we, of course, saw Ferrari benefit Leclerc with an early pit stop that allowed him to get the lead and hold on. We'll see what happens here, though, today in Interlagos. We are ready to roll from that 11th starting position here. Of course, only the top 8 with points in a sprint now. It's going to be racing here momentarily. There it is. Lights out. We're underway here in Brazil for the sprint race. Now, it's a decent start. Not great, but it's okay. Of course, we've been so strong in the rain this season. Just last episode in Mexico, having a very solid, of course, effort there as we head down into this opening couple of corners now. Down the elevation, Alonso, Ocon, side by side, of course, former teammates that didn't quite get along, of course, in their final season of working together at Alpine, but we get ahead there of the Haas. As you can see, though, on the start, it was George Russell that was able to get the leap on the Ferrari as well. Max Verstappen got up in the second place, so just a downright terrible start from Charles Leclerc. As we continue on, you can see everybody, though, getting through here pretty clean, pretty calm, cool, collected kind of start for the whole field now that's just kind of trying to survive in these treacherous conditions. Now, like I said, I mean, you could probably go onto the wets right now and be just as fast, maybe, if not a little bit faster, but everybody started on the mediums, of course, being so close to start the sprint to the intermediate compound weather. So I myself on this opening lap, kind of the same vibe as everybody else, just kind of survive, get through it, and get a little bit comfortable, get some confidence built in the car, and then we can start to attack. We jump straight through, though, to lap 3. Same situation, running here where I started in P11. Magnussen, Bottas just behind myself. You can see on the track map, Russell building up a little bit of a gap between himself as well as Max Verstappen here now, but just trying to stick with these guys and build that confidence and comfortability in the car here so I can put some attack on Fernando Alonso, the Spaniard there, trying to move his way forward, of course, past Ocon and Gasly up ahead for that final point in the sprint here. But here we are coming to lap 6 already with a bit of a run on Alonso. Goes defensive down into turn 1. We're going to try and go around the outside. It's going to be successful here as long as we can get through the right-hander. You see from the rear view, sure enough, clear of Fernando Alonso, the 2-time world champion. Of course, last episode when we speak of 2-time world champions, Max Verstappen upgraded from a 2-time to a 3-time world champion. He cannot be caught by the end of the season by his teammate of Sergio Perez, who's going to be in a fight with Leclerc for the second spot in the world drivers standings, of course, so we'll have to pay attention to that. And Red Bull has already basically locked up the constructors as well. As you can see, yellow flags, and it's unfortunately in the announcement video of retirement at the end of the season, Nico Hulkenberg is going to be retiring from the sprint with a mechanical failure. With that combination in the conditions of the weather, it will bring out a virtual safety car that was very short-lived. By the time we got back around to the front straightaway, we were back racing here. So very quickly, once again, we saw this in Mexico in the last episode, of course. 2 safety cars and 2 virtual safety cars that just kept on happening, and 3 of those happened within the first, I think, 10 laps of the race, if I remember correctly, and then, of course, 1 towards the end. But nonetheless, we are closing in on the Alpine of Esteban Ocon here. Now, lap 9, watch this. Leclerc running in 3rd. It's been a rough sprint starting pole. He goes wide in turn 1. He just simply locked up and slid off circuit, and now comes out back on track behind his teammate of Carlos Sainz, and now apparently he's not the only one making mistakes, because there I am slipping up. And Alonso, though, a little bit wide on the apex, so he gets by me, but nearly throws it away immediately. But I wasn't done yet. White flag in the air here in Brazil, and we're running still P11, hoping that I can have a shot to get back past Fernando. And overall, I mean, a respectable performance here in the rain, but I was hoping for a little bit better. As you can see, we might be able to do that because Alonso muscles his former teammate out of the way right there, and both of us are going to go through, and I almost had a shot to attack Fernando, but I caught him at an awkward spot. But Russell hangs on to win over Verstappen in the sprint. Perez third, Hamilton, Sainz, Leclerc, the rest of the top 5 as through 6 places, while we're right on the back of Alonso as we head down this front front stretch, but it's not going to be enough there. He shut the door enough to where I thought he was going to go a little bit further right. He went left there. P10, nonetheless, yeah, like I said, I mean, it was a respectable effort here in the rain. Once again, we continued to hold our own and do really well in the wet conditions. It just wasn't enough there to really move forward. So it is what it is. We're still nonetheless starting at the back of the grid for the Grand Prix. So we have some work to do. Points going to be hard to come by in this one, but there's only one way to find out if we can do that, and that's heading to the grid.
Formula One returns to Interlagos once again with the stage set for what promises to be another classic Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel famously clinched his third championship here in 2012, and just 4 years later, Max Verstappen treated us to one of the finest wet weather drives of all time. It's an unusual anti-clockwise race here at Interlagos, where the Sao Paulo locals are packed into the grandstands at each of the 15 corners around this classic 2.7-mile circuit. Two very fast sections bookend the famous and highly technical Sector 2, where getting a good run out of Junsao into one of the two DRS zones will be key to any overtaking prospects today. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Magnussen, Bottas, Gasly, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Stroll, Albon, Joe, Sargent, Oscar Piastri, Golden Boy, and Nico Hülkenberg rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. Joining me for the Grand Prix once again is none other than Anthony Davidson.
The key now will be to keep in the right mindset. We've seen time and again that things go wrong if you just try and do the minimum. Not necessarily because of the pressure, but because it's different to your usual approach. They'll need to avoid that and stay focused today.
You see quite a few drivers taking grid penalties on top of just ourselves. So you can see right here, look at this, Verstappen starting on hards. We have a few drivers on mediums, like myself, Hülkenberg, Zhou Guanyu as well, as we are going to be in an interesting one here as we're going to get ready to go for the formation lap.
The formation lap gets underway here in Brazil. Some memorable moments in history have come from this very circuit. Will we be treated to another today? Well, let's find out. As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books.
All right, team, I don't see why we can't muscle our way up there today and at least go for points, so let's have fun.
Yep, get after it today, mate. Let's get it.
All right, then, we are ready to roll. So, yeah, from the back of the grid, the only one behind us there is Hülkenberg in his final Brazilian Grand Prix here for Haas. So, Haas guaranteed lineup changes on the way, so someone from Formula 2 will be moving up. The question is, who? Nonetheless, here we go, ready to go racing. 5, red lights, very quick drop as we switch over to the replay cam. It's already gone, and Russell and Max Verstappen side by side down into turn 1. There you go, it's going to be Verstappen and then getting the edge, but hold on, Russell on the softs going to muscle his way back forward, but just as quick as that happens, now Verstappen pulls back even with them now. Very different tire compound choices there between the two drivers, and it's going to benefit George Russell the most there, into the lead. Sainz in third, of course, his teammate of Leclerc a little bit further down the order with that grid penalty. As you can see, I'm struggling right now in the number 16 Ferrari there, just a little bit behind some side-by-side battles there. That's Kevin Magnussen, and you can see our teammate of Yuki Tsunoda as well, settling in right now, having a decent opening couple moments here in this Grand Prix. The majority of the field, of course, on soft tires, a handful of us on mediums, including myself, and Verstappen being the only one on hards. Verstappen has already won the World Drivers' Championship for the 3rd consecutive season, so, I mean, what does it hurt to try something different different in strategy, because what's the worst that can happen? Absolutely nothing. He can finish bad but still win the title. At the end of lap 1 though, Sainz already putting pressure on Verstappen on the softs, and sure enough, through he goes into second. Can Ferrari go 3 consecutive race wins? I think that would be the first time we've seen Ferrari lose more than 2 in a row. As you can see as well, Perez under attack right there. That was Alonso going through, so Red Bull off to a bit of a rocky start here. Now myself looking for opportunities to overtake, of course, Hulkenberg, go after Zhou Guan Yu, Alex Albon, etc. But just waiting for those opportunities here, and this is where one of them strikes right now. Up the inside, we fire one here, up the inside of that Haas, and gain the position out of it. So up to P18, and on this third lap, it really felt like things were starting to kick in. I was starting to kind of get my rhythm in, and sure enough, at the end of the lap, down into turn 1, lap 4, firing it up the inside of Zhou, and we go past him as well. So we are just starting to kind of get a rhythm going here in the dry again. I was running for the first time in F1 23, 109 on the AI. I felt like it might have been 1 too high. I think I should have went down to 108. I ran 108 for the sprint, and that's why I went up to 109, because I thought it was a little bit too easy. But now, let me know in the comments below what AI you guys run, because I feel like I've had to turn it up a lot in F1 23 compared to F1 22. In the last game, the most highest I could run the AI was like 104. On this game, aside from Japan, for whatever reason, the lowest I really can go to where it's not too easy is about 105 or 106 almost. So I'm a bit surprised. I don't know if they just made the AI easier or if I'm just a bit better at this game than last game. I really don't know. Nonetheless, here we are up the inside of Alex Albon here, down into turn 4. You see fellow teammate, or sorry, fellow rookie of the year contender up in front of us there. That's Oscar Piastri in the McLaren. So we're going to try and run him down there for the 15th position. Hamilton with that grid penalty down in 14th, and hasn't really gone anywhere right now. He's still stuck behind his former teammate Valtteri Bottas there. Just in front of them, Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin as well. Of course, Lawrence Stroll talking to us in qualifying, saying basically an Aston Martin seat is ours. And we still have the option. It's basically between Aston Martin or AlphaTauri to stay with them. As you can see, the battle's continuing. It's starting to look like lap 11. The hard starting to kick off here between Verstappen as well as Alonso here. As you can see, yeah, for sure, the softs definitely starting to give way to those hards on Verstappen. But can Verstappen put those hards to work to close the gap to the cars in front? That's the question to set him up for that first pit stop. At the end of the episode, by the way, we'll have a slight little announcement for Season 2 of the F1 23 Driver Career Mode. Here we go, though. Firing one up the inside of Piastri down towards turn 1, wheel to wheel, as we now are going to move up into 15th place. So pretty happy with that now. I mean, it's taken 13 laps. We've been slowly clicking off the positions here. Now an opportunity to make a move on Valtteri Bottas as we head into this first turn. So turn 1, of course, such a prime overtaking opportunity. But you got to be smart depending on the car, because you give them DRS a lot right here after you pass them. So you got to make sure you're picking your battles wisely. If I pass Hamilton into turn 1, he's going to get me back right here down towards turn 4. However, it's an Alfa Romeo, which is the worst car on the grid, so we can get away with it. But you can see right here, big slide actually off circuit even, as we make a huge save. Lap 15, just a little bit shy of the halfway mark. Goodness gracious, we just about binned it and ended our Grand Prix early there. Of course, 2 DNFs on the season, one in Monaco with a crash, and then of course the mechanical failure that we had a while back. As you can see, everybody headed into the pit lane now. The pit cycle is going to kick off. We're going to run about another lap or 2. Verstappen's going to be able to go another couple laps longer than that. Russell's going to pit from the lead, bringing Carlos Sainz in. That will put Verstappen out in front, but of course Verstappen is going to have to pit again, and he will give up the lead position and then some because of the fact that he's staying out longer. So all these guys around us doing the quote-unquote undercut. There's no undercut involved. This is their normal pit schedule, but we of course are going to lose quite a bit of time to those drivers that just pitted around us. So the end of the lap, there goes Russell around my outside. Verstappen's still on track, of course, now on those hards. We're going to come in now from the current 3rd position, like a net P15, and see what we can do basically on the fresh set of hards. So everybody else around us, for the most part, is going to be on fresh mediums. So we come in as we got Bottas just behind us, so hoping for no pit errors. We've only had 1 pit error this season season. I don't remember where it was. Does anyone remember? I don't remember. But yeah, we only had one, and so far that continues here. Now, as we have a good pit stop right there, get back on circuit here, of course, momentarily. Got to go through this very treacherous exit of a pit lane that Brazil has. But nonetheless, P16 is actually where we stand currently now as we re-enter the circuit. Oscar Piastri was able to get me there as Verstappen now pits, and that would put out Russell in front and Sainz in second, who is trying to chase him down. And I wouldn't write him off, and Alonso's not far back either. Alonso got his first podium recently, and now he's actually going for another one. So Alonso is on it lately here this season. But you can see, watch this. Bottas coming to lap 19 into turn 1. He fires one up my inside. I was struggling to get these hard tires just kind of lit up and warmed up and kind of into the prime position for racing, and you can see that paid the price for me, because now I'm under attack from not only Bottas, but here comes Alex Albon into the mix as well. We hold off Valtteri, so that was good, but it wasn't long until I was under pressure again from Alex Albon this time. And watch this as we're going to make that run down towards turn 4. Albon's all over the back of me already in the Williams here. He's going to have the DRS. I have no DRS. I'm draining my battery, and he's going to go around us on the outside. So back down to P16 we go. A little bit annoying, of course, but that was just a situation. So I would spend a few laps riding behind Albon until I felt like my tires and confidence was back to where it needed to be. So this is now lap 23 of us just chilling behind the Williams here, just hoping that something kicks in. And I've started to feel that confidence again. It felt like I could finally make some ground. So I go for the overtake here down towards turn 1. A really easy overtake down into the first turn. So back into P15. 3 seconds now, less than 3 seconds between myself and Piastri. Verstappen now, here he is, firing one up the inside of Charles Leclerc there down into turn 4 now, as he's going to be, of course, on a little bit fresher mediums than Leclerc is, and they're going to drag race here up through the right-hander. I think the edge is going to go to Leclerc. Yes, it will, but it wouldn't last long. Front straightaway now. Here goes Verstappen again, firing one on the right side, clear down into the first turn as Russell continues to lead as it's time to go through the grid.
Don't get excited yet. Mercedes and Russell fans, Carlos Sainz is closing the gap quickly to George here.
How Ferrari, I bet, wish they could have had this speed all year long, Crofty. They've been the top team the last few Grand Prix.
Lando Norris with a solid top 10 run again here in Brazil, as Hamilton now up to 9th. A good rebound after struggling to move forward early.
Hey guys, I know we're talking good about Norris, but I've got news on his teammate Oscar just radioed in that he's losing full power in his McLaren.
Thank you, Ted. We'll see what happens there as we see Yuki Tsunoda muscle off Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. A good run so far for Tsunoda today, and ahead of his teammate, which hasn't come often this year.
And from what we keep hearing, they may not be teammates much longer either, if Owen takes up that ride at Aston Martin for 2024.
All right, and there you have through the grid here now as here we go. The battle for the lead. Carlos Sainz up the inside of George Russell into turn 4, and sure enough, well, hold on, Russell's going to fight back. Not going to make it easy, of course. Russell won this race back in 2022. He wants to go back-to-back Brazilian Grand Prix wins. Alonso would love to, of course, return to the top step of the podium, but I think it's going to have to wait because the Spaniard of Sainz gets through now as here I am making a move. This is on Oscar Piastri, who's now having that engine issue. He had faded back, but we were on the move here late in this Grand Prix again. As you can see, it's running down. Magnussen and Tsunoda right down in front of us, wheel to wheel. These two have been battling it out. You saw it right there and through the grid, and they continue on. Magnussen's going to leave the door open. I'm going to fire one up the inside. He had that bit of an oversteer moment, and you saw the back end kind of slip out from under him. Up into P13 we go, and now we have run down our teammate of Tsunoda coming up on the final 10 laps of the Grand Prix. Here we go now, all over the back of him as we're going to look to the left side. We have the DRS. We should be able to get clear down towards turn 1, and I swear I didn't run into him, but apparently we did. We get a warning for a collision with Tsunoda, but clear into the first turn, up into P12, P11, Stroll 4 seconds ahead. Let's go get him here. Now is never mind. There goes the engine for the second time this season. That's going to be our second mechanical failure, our third DNF, as it's day over. And just like that, you don't get a warning anymore. And Mark doesn't come up on the radio and tell you, hey, there might be an issue. It just happens. It just simply happens, and the engine's gone. So that's it. Just as quick as we thought we were on the move, gonna go get potentially Lance Stroll. well, we were out of the race because the engine failed. So, unfortunate, but it is what it is. Carlos Sainz is going to get his second win of the season. Career win, of course, number 3. That will be for the Spaniard. 2 Spaniards on the podium because Alonso again up there as well. So, a great drive for him. Russell is going to be second, so no Red Bull presence whatsoever on the podium, which is, it's kind of refreshing to see after their dominance and, of course, them just securing both Never mind. Max Verstappen was able to beat George Russell. What happened to George Russell? From dominating to not even on the podium. We got to see where he finished. I'm going to assume then 4th, but even then, that's implying that Alonso went and passed him, and then Verstappen was able to run him down and pass him as well, which would be a heck of a fall off. Maybe he had some kind of mechanical issue. We'll take a look at the finishing order here and get some clarification, because that's a bit surprising if Russell dropped off that hard without, you know, the car having an issue or something. So I'm going to assume maybe that just might be the case of what happened. You see it right there. Yeah, Russell's 4th. And actually Verstappen 2nd. Sorry, obviously I didn't even pay attention to that. So what a drive from Verstappen then. Sargent also DNF'd from the race. So unfortunate for him and myself. 100 points between Verstappen and Perez. Obviously it doesn't matter anymore, but the race is on for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th between Perez, Leclerc, and Sainz. Here, as you see, the rest of the points. That's going to wrap it up for us. In the next one, a new track, a new city. Las Vegas, going to be an exciting one. I'll be honest, not a huge fan of the circuit, but I'm excited for the actual race itself, though. So I'll see you guys then in Vegas. Thank you for watching, and have yourselves a great day.